in CS and are told that 100 Thieves ran a funnel composition, it wasn't Someday that they were funneling. They weren't supposed to be funneling him. They were funneling Cody's son. But Someday came up as their late game insurance policy. And other than that, 100 Thieves managed to bring back what worked great for them in spring, which was 3 supports and a Cody son. And if you have Someday firing on all cylinders in the top lane, we have the antithesis here of each other in the top lane. Someday stopped them from losing, saved the game, and Alorum was how OpTic lost their game.
Here we go, 100 Thieves versus OpTic Gaming. Final match of the day and of the week. We'll see how they decide to play this one out. Kale and Ornn banned out by 100 Thieves. OpTic Gaming removing Talia and Nocturne, focusing more on the jungle pool this time around.
Yeah, interesting because 100 Thieves took away the Kale. The Ornn was for Alorum. It's what he played and he didn't do very well on at all and got camped. And Morgana, so there's no Kai'Sa ban. Aurelia is still available. I think OpTic might be able to get a primo funnel strategy going for them today.
Let's see if the Thieves can do anything to shut it down. Their bans are done now. OpTic with one more to go. We'll see if they want to continue focusing that jungle pool or not, deciding instead to focus on the top lane.
I like that.
Giving a little bit of attention towards Someday. Remember, it was the Jax that he went off with yesterday, but there's the Kai'Sa, that champion that can be so effective in a funneling strategy, will be picked up by the Thieves.
Yeah, but that still leaves Xayah Rakan available. Very good funnel strategy, and when you have, exactly,
there it is.
You can actually play this bottom lane for Arrow and Big, or you can have it mid lane for PoE and Gate, which means that the Rakan just has great engage. And this is actually a very different funnel than most. I actually think Rakan is one of the best. Normally it's like Braum has all these interactions, Nunu has these interactions with specific champions, and if you can get this specific composition, it means that you aren't just a funnel that's waiting for them to engage, you get the go button all the time with the Rakan engages, and you get to start the fights on your terms.
100 Thieves are saying, you guys got a go button, we'll take a go button as well. They grabbed the Alistar for themselves. Some incredible engage potential on that one. In the last game, we got to see Fang use that one for Echo Fox to start a lot of fights off and just be that massive brick wall in the team fight. And it looks like they're going to have yet another big team fighter there with the Swain.
Interesting. The Swain can be for the bottom lane. Ryu can go ahead and play Swain bot. Cody Sun will play Funnel Kai'Sa mid. And Swain plus Alistar is actually pretty reliable for getting your combo off. You WQ for the Alistar into the Swain pull, into the Swain pull back. So there's a lot that can be done there. And I actually like this from OpTic because Mundo handles magic damage very well. And so far they have a lot of magic damage on the 100 Thieves side.
Mundo, one of those champions that seems pretty much pick or ban these days. Very, very strong in the top lane. Safely can farm underneath turret, can be a huge threat later on in the game. And it was actually OpTic that went up against Mundo and refused to build grievous wounds against him, which is not a decision I can get behind. It's one of those instances I was talking about last game where some of the itemization comes into question in Summer Split so far. But as we get into the second part of the bans, the Mundo will be on OpTic's side this time around as Darius is banned away.
Yep, Darius actually quite good into the Mundo early. Lucian banned away, making sure that they don't run any kind of fast strategy where they swap it out and play a bottom lane here for the Xayah Rakan. But you will want potentially another marksman here for OpTic, but at the same time, that's actually really interesting because they're mostly physical damage now.
You got some Mundo magic damage in the numbers.
But having a mage would diversify your damage profile enough. So I wonder if that's what they will try to do here for OpTic. Or if they would just go all in on physical damage and say, we're going to last pick our last champion, whether it's a mage or a marksman, and they'll pick their second support here if it is a funnel strategy for OpTic.
Well, they do ban out the Lulu, so they're not looking to pick that one up for themselves, but they do want to keep it away from the Thieves, who could support a Kai'Sa with that, and 100 Thieves will take out one of those funnel staples in the Braum. OpTic, what's it gonna be? We are expecting another support-style champion here for this fourth pick.
Yeah, because they're running both Big and Gate, if they pick something like a jungler, it's like, who's gonna jungle?
It's like, yeah, which guy actually pilots this? But instead, Tahm Kench locked in.
Tahm Kench, this leaves pretty much, I would say, in terms of funneling champions that you can run. Nunu is really good for 100 Thieves here. Meteos would play it and just buff up and multiply the Kai'Sa stats. Nunu and potentially Taric, but Taric is mostly a Master Yi combination. So I would expect the Nunu here if they're going to run the Alistar bottom lane.
4 seconds.
Ooh,
okay.
Something's
We're
been
gonna see the
popping up.
Fiddlesticks here again.
Nice.
See that one from Smoothie last game. It didn't end up netting Cloud9 the win. but he did have a couple of good plays on it. We remember the great escape bottom lane as he ran away using the passive, and the ults in team fights can't be underestimated either. That combined with the Swain means you've got a lot of AoE damage over time.
Yeah, and Fiddlesticks is just incredibly good against funnel compositions. Can use it to fear the primary damage source. And when one person is doing 50% of a team's damage, if you fear them for 2.25 seconds, I believe is what it is,
It's a long time.
they run away, and that's all. That's a big dip in damage.
100 Thieves will lock in the Gangplank as the final pick, so we'll see that one in the top side, Swain in the mid lane, Kaisa Fiddlesticks bottom. OpTic Gaming giving the fans a little bit of false hope there with the Teemo hover. I don't think that one's going to go through, audience. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Couple other things they could choose between, and Varus is the ultimate lock-in here for OpTic.
So Varus is actually more of a PoE champion, I would say, but I feel like the better funnel is the Xayah with the Rakan, and then having the Varus Tom Kench be bottom lane. It's just like musical chairs right now.
Yeah, they're just swapping everything around. I'm pretty sure they're just memeing on everybody because I'm not 100% certain what's going on there, but
Yeah.
Power of Evil will take the smite, like you said. Seems more like a Varus champion. His arrow, or
They swapped it.
maybe not. Okay, I'm not going to talk till they load in.
Yeah, it's just the combo of Xayah Rakan I think is just better when they're together. So unless you're going to run Tom Kench jungle with the Varus,
You can eat
as
the minion
funnel,
and
I don't
spit them
know.
out other places. We saw Meteos do it yesterday. You walk up to the wolves, you eat them, and you spit them somewhere else.
I mean, it'll work, but
It doesn't do a lot of anything. It's mostly just annoying, but you can do it.
regardless, we have funnel versus funnel right now, where it's going to be Aloran playing Dr. Mundo, Gate and Power People are going to pilot the Xayah Rakan combo being funneled, and then it's Arrow Big in the bottom side with the Varus TK. And on the 100 Thieves side, looks like Ryu will be playing the bottom lane Swain in combination with, I would assume, Meteos, to be honest, because I think the Alistar is a better champion for helping the funnel alongside the Kaisa, because he's going to apply the stacks. I think Afromu is going to be the person who's roaming around with Cody, because it makes more sense to me to have the support and bot lane player be the mid jungle in the funnel strat.
For some reason, when I was looking at 100 Thieves comp earlier, I just completely hovered over the Alistar and thought that this looked standard for a second. And then I recognized, oh wait, 2 supports. Fiddlesticks doesn't actually jungle for real anymore. So
Nope.
we'll see how these two funnels collide in this final game of the day. Cody's son on that Kaisa. This is, for me, this has become almost the trademark champion of this kind of strategy because it just executes it so damn well.
Ooh, and a little bit of a slight mix-up here that I personally really like and dislike. I dislike it from a stats perspective.
How are you gonna, you like it and
So
dislike it?
I like it from a stats. I dislike it from a stats perspective, but I like it from a fun perspective.
Okay.
And it's lethal tempo for Kaisa. When Kaisa first came out, I was running lethal tempo on her all the time because she can easily break the attack speed cap when she gets her items. You get enough attack speed with 100% to get her the E evolution, and when you use the supercharge, you'll typically max out. So when you have lethal tempo, and lethal tempo, a lot of people haven't used it. So you first do damage, then it winds up over a second, and then you have the attack speed, and you can break the attack speed cap. What Kaisa does is you hit somebody with a W, you have the lethal tempo activate, then you are in with this gigantic amount of attack speed. And lethal tempo's been buffed over time, so the bottom end has been brought up, so it's very effective early on in the game.
Lethal Tempo also on Varus there for Arrow, so we'll see Lethal Tempo versus Lethal Tempo this game as nobody wants to do anything crazy at level 1. We're not going to see an Echo Fox versus Cloud9 level 1 start at the red buff. Instead, both sides will just make sure that their junglers, I'm doing air quotes for those of y'all that can't see it, are getting off to a good start, grabbing that buff.
Yeah, just gotta watch out on the bottom side. Actually looks like Arrow took a decent amount of damage coming around the corner. And Meteos, yeah, throughout the Dark Wind, Ryu has the E. And this is the duo Crow bottom lane.
Well, these Crows, at least OpTic hopes, won't be as effective as the level 1 Crows were in the last game when everyone's just running around in the jungle. Generally a lot less likely to be so in lane when you've got the minions to bounce around on. We'll see how these two mages can lane up against the more traditional style of lane of the Varus at the time.
Yeah, I wonder, because typically you'll have the melee support hit level 2 first because he can just use his relic shield stacks. And that's why I thought that the Alistar is going to be the funneler. And now they fight over Scuttle Crabs. Funnel usually is get your first buff, go mid, shove mid, get the Scuttle Crab on the other side, come back mid, shove 2 waves. And you're seeing that Cody's son and Afromo are actually a little bit behind. And I think that's because of the combo of Xayah Rakan just has more wave clear early.
Cody will manage to get that crab. They kite it right back over towards the mid lane just in time to show up and catch this wave. They're not going to lose out on any cannon. Maybe they will lose out on a cannon. Doing a good job keeping them away. Meanwhile, bottom side, it's the damage into the root, into the first blood for 100 Thieves. OpTic lose their AD carry.
Yeah, that's great. Meteos just walks up, uses the fear, and I think his Aftershock is what finishes it there. His Aftershock or his Ignite. He's like, I'm gonna just walk next to this guy. They have the combo, the Crow lane, just CCs for days. And you can't dodge it if you're the Varus. You only have to flash, and that's about it. So you miss position once. Fiddlesticks walks up and gets the fear on you. You're pretty much dead unless Big can actually get the W. But I feel like the fear, the silence bouncing may prevent you from that. That's a rough one to navigate in terms of CS, now that I'm putting it all together.
Really, really difficult to get out of that when you can see Arrow still has the flash available. Never had the chance to use it to get himself out of that tough spot. Power of Evil now grabbing his own blue buff. Let's take another look at the play.
I see this one more time. That's a great route to start it off. He gets gulped, so he has it on cooldown. And then Meteos walks up. Boop, 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 boop. Flash, fear, pull. Into the, oh man, yeah.
There's
and
no way.
Big got silenced there too, so even if he wanted to, he couldn't have actually given him the big gulp there.
The big gulp, that's a good one, I like that. Power of Evil will just continue pushing up, utilizing that early push power of the duo like you were already talking about. 41 CS compared to 35. That'll catch up, but Cody's just a little bit behind in terms of getting those minions into his pocket. More crows bouncing around on the bottom side as Ryu and Meteos appear very comfortable in this lane.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of pressure. Double mage bottom lane is very oppressive. I think people are always talking about Zyra can just kind of 1v2 the lanes. Now you have two of those champions.
Two Zyras.
Two champions that can reliably CC, but also just take over the lane in terms of pressure.
Still 100 Thieves. They're only up the value of the first blood.
Wow.
And actually not even that because it was first blood with assist money. So
wait,
OpTic isn't letting anybody run away with anything just yet.
I'm like sitting here like, it's almost like I'm mind blown by the fact I'm like, wait, they have a marksman and a support mid lane. Literally bottom lane just moved to mid. That's all that happened in the meta. That's it. Just moved bottom lane to mid, and then your bottom lane became, another support. The jungle's a dead roll. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life?
Rip. See you later, jungles. As they manage to move themselves towards the mid lane now, we could see a lot of blood, but maybe not.
This is actually hilarious to me when I just see like two funnels against each other, because it's literally just your duo laning in the mid lane, and you're just taking farm from the camps that are around you in your proximity whenever the waves are being pushed or you have some time. That's actually what it is. So I'm thinking like funnel has actually existed since the beginning of time in League of Legends. It was literally just called bottom lane.
Bottom lane and funnel, the great mystery is solved. We finally got to the bottom of it. Investigation successful. As that bottom lane that has now been changed to mages for one side continues to just farm up back and forth. Ryu hits level 5 there as the tongue comes out, finds its way onto Meteos.
Meteos got himself a nice little cannon minion there. So,
oh yeah.
Dark Wind.
Oh, whoops, sorry man, didn't mean to take that one.
I mean, puts your Spell Thieves on cooldown, so feels bad, but
I'll trade it for a cannon minion. A lot of damage coming out on the Arrow there. Ryu unleashing the burst. The Death's Hand slowly but surely getting closer and closer to being that constant pressure tool. So weak for the first couple levels. Reminds me a lot of like a Vlad Q, where it doesn't do a whole lot early on, but then as you scale up, it just becomes this spammable, constant threat. Gate moves his way back towards the mid lane. Doesn't want to look to make anything happen here just yet. Level 6 on both of the 80 carries.
This is usually the gentleman's agreement of funnel compositions. It's you farm, I farm. You farm, I farm. It's back and forth until somebody makes a big positioning error or you fight over scuttles. But usually it's just, all right, I see you there, and tip my hat, and you can go ahead and clear this wave. And as I clear this wave, you go get raptors or red, and then you just go back and forth with it. But something I want to talk about here that we haven't touched on is the top laners in this. When you're running a funnel composition on either side, I feel like these are really good top laners to run against a funnel, because GP is saying, okay, if they don't have a jungler, I'm never going to get ganked, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of GP, is that he's gankable and you shut him down early. So he's like, I'm just going to parlay farm for free forever. No jungle help can actually come up here, and I'll scale at the same rate, almost the same rate as somebody who's getting funneled. And then Dr. Mundo is saying, all right, well, I can actually survive all these matchups with cleavers and just CSing under turret. So good or bad matchup doesn't matter. He's going to be able to scale for later and actually absorb a lot of the damage from funnel composition. So I think these are actually two very good ones to run. And I want to see how Someday affects these fights with his ultimate, because Varus and Xayah both really, very much so, dislike the ultimate from GP because they have
There's no way out.
some way to actually, like, they have to use one of their primary abilities, like the Feather Storm or even just the Flash, to get out of it.
Someday also on a carry means he's got the potential to go completely crazy like we saw from him in yesterday's game. The 4-man Jack stun to save the Nexus when all hope seemed lost. It'll be hard to top that performance, but if there's a champion to do it, Gangplank would probably be that champion. Mundo not exactly as big of an amazing flashy playmaker, but there's something to be said about just running into 5 people and not being dead.
There is a lot to be said about that. It's very helpful when you buy space for your team and you can actually just create this big zone. Issue though is this lane will typically go the way of the GP because it's hard to actually kill the GP, whereas you can just parlay and get free gold from Klepto over and over again.
Any champion that would just run at Gangplank, he just throws a barrel down, keeps one setting behind him, and detonate it at any point to disengage you. So not exactly a lot of threat there for Alorum, who is doing a good job staying caught up in farm, though. When we were talking about how these two may seem mismatched based on yesterday's performances, Alorum's not just allowing Someday to completely smash the lane. Of course, Someday is up in gold. That's the nature of Gangplank. That's the nature of Kleptomancy. But Alorum's 2 CS behind.
Yeah. GP kind of cheating, printing money all the time. It feels really bad because you're like, I'm even, but you're actually behind.
Yeah, even's not even.
You have to get the GP behind to actually be even with him. But something I actually want to see here is I'm looking at builds very intently because we've been seeing a lot of just Stormrazor early for people like Xayah. And I want to see if he goes for Warrior into that because he has the makings of the Caulfield's Warhammer. And on the opposite side, Cody's son. Okay, good. He's going for the Rage Blade first. I actually had a big issue with the Echo Fox game when it was OpTic going for the, was it Blood Razor into the Nashers, into not even completing Rage Blade. I thought that was actually wrong because Rage Blade changes your combat pattern in general. Because there's so many passive abilities that have a prerequisite of hit X number of times, 5 times, 3 times, 3 hit passes, etc. And it becomes so powerful when you can cycle that no cooldown passive over and over again, and just changes the combat pattern in general. And that's one of the things where combining CC with Kai'Sa and having people apply Plasma for her makes her feel like she's even more broken because the composition plus the Rage Blade will really feed into her strengths.
Well, your observation of the 2 longswords for the Warhammer was correct. You are seeing Power of Evil with the completed Warrior enchantment on top of the Skirmisher Saber. And I want to point out the use of Skirmisher Saber, especially in a funnel composition, when you know there's one guy whose damage is going to be massive in these fights, dropping the Red Smite on him, preventing a percentage of that damage from coming through, can make a much bigger impact than it otherwise would. Bottom side, seeing a little bit of blood down here. Big takes some damage, pops the thick skin to ignore a little on the back end, but Ryu and Meteor still always looking.
Yeah, but we do have Arrow with a CS advantage here, and so far it just seems like everybody's going blow for blow with one another. The GP is still creating extra money during this time. And I actually want to check support items really quickly because that's usually sometimes where a difference will emerge. It's just very slightly. So it actually looks like everybody's about 50 gold away from each other support-wise, with both of the supports on the side of 100 Thieves actually have a little bit more money.
Ult for ult traded in the bottom lane there. The Chains of Corruption come out. Ryu responds, going for that Demonic Ascension, but neither side going to find any great success. No summoner spells expended, just the ultimates, but it will take a while for those to come back online. Ryu staring down the barrel of a 2-minute cooldown. Arrow just slightly under that.
And I like this from OpTic. They're actually pressuring because they have the completed Warrior, which is better than the parts and components of the Rage Blade. So they get pressured, they take the enemy Raptors, and now we might see their first move. They have ways to engage with Gates, Rakan. They're going to be spotted here, but will they go for it anyway?
Okay, they didn't kill the ward, but all right. They just want to make sure they got down here fast enough. That's the plan. Meteos goes into ulti mode, clear out the wave, make it so this dive can't go through. Gangplank ultimate also used here. The fight's going to break out. Power of Evil in some trouble, having to use the Feather Storm. Still caught out. It's Gate, who now has to go into the Hourglass mode as Alorum tries to get in, but now he's got to try to get out as Someday grabs the 2nd kill of the game for his team.
Questionable start to the fight where they saw the ward. They saw that they were spotted 100%. And it was a good ultimate from Someday and Meteos to actually just buy space and discourage the engage. And then the follow-up really put Power of Evil in a bad spot where he had to flash, use his ultimate, and even just get swallowed there by Big to get out.
Nice interrupt on the back there from Ryu, making sure Big can't just leave whenever he wants to. 100 Thieves in control of the game here so far. That fight went very well for them. But like you said, the introduction was a little bit sketchy from OpTic. This team needs to make sure they're being more coordinated with plays like this. Let's take another look at exactly how it all went wrong.
Yeah, I like that from Meteos. He gets the ultimate off. That's actually Power of Evil's E on cooldown as well. And then Meteos gets the fear onto him. And then, yeah, he has to Featherstorm, Flash, and get picked up by Big there to not die. Which is big because as long as you can stay alive as the funnel, it's great because you don't have your CS ever fall behind. But it means the Rage Blade is completed now for Cody Sun. I like the idea from OpTic to use their Power Spike because they had the Warrior over the Rage Blade components. But the execution and the fact that they were spotted on the Blast Cone and went anyway, and then it was delayed, just made it go all awry.
The heart was in the right place. The brain was catching up. We'll see how 100 Thieves can continue to make things happen this game. Though remember, that was more of a punish. That was more of, you're doing something that we're able to turn around and not allow you to succeed with, where as opposed to, hey, we're going to make this play of our own. Yeah. We're going to try to find our own successes. Instead, they're punishing their opposition's failures. They are ahead right now. First Drake is Mountain yet again, so nothing that either side is really willing to go to battle for just yet.
Yeah, it was a absolutely great punish there from Power of Evil onto Gate, sacrificing him with the Blast Cone. Surprised they didn't call the play off in general.
Yeah, I feel like walking over the ward is generally a pretty bad sign. They wanted to go for it. I really like Meteos also just using the Fiddlesticks ultimate. Clears out the wave. If they don't dive you immediately, it clears out the wave. If they do, you're already in ultimate.
Yeah, and Someday did the same thing where throwing it on the minion wave was the ideal strategy there. I also want to know what Sunday's going next here in his build, because it looks like he picked up a longsword to potentially go for something like Sterix. I actually think a lot of GPs have been going Stormrazor, because once you get Stormrazor Trinity Force, you always crit your barrel. And so you get way more cash faster at that point, because you hit this breakpoint where you're actually just one-shotting the caster minions every time, and sometimes even just the melee minions, depending on if you're ahead of the curve or not. But yeah, Stormrazor plus Trinity Force as the first two items on GP makes the cash just roll in. I believe it's his highest win rate in solo.
All right, we'll keep an eye on exactly how that itemization goes down. Someday does a good job progging the barrel there, exploding that onto Alorum before he manages to smack it down with his cleaver. Stopwatch is available for Alorum's. Mundo can still use that when in an upcoming team fight. If we're looking across the board, Stopwatch also available for Ryu. Very big tool there for the Swain. Arrow has one of his own as well. Very important items to keep your eyes on as we crest the 15-minute point, as we get into the part of the game where we're going to see these bigger fights as opposed to just skirmishes. Those actives can make all the difference in the world. Cody Sun, level 11, almost 12 on this Kaisa. Like you said, Zyrene, he's got the Rage Blade. He's not stopping off to make a jungle item purchase. He doesn't need that. Instead, he's scaling towards the Nashor's Tooth.
Yeah, I actually think the jungle item is mildly useless on her. Especially like Warrior, I think that going for Runic Echoes is good. And I also think that going for the Blood Razor is okay, but not that early, because attack speed is like a multiplier stat on other stats that you have. And the Nashor's Tooth is the one that, so like, I'll just explain Kai'Sa's build really quickly, where it's like Rage Blade changes your combat pattern.
Professor Zyrene.
Rage Blade changes your combat pattern and makes it so like the on-hit cycle faster. The AP from Nashor's makes it so your W's hitting harder, and there's an AP ratio on Nashor's, which funnels into Rage Blade. So getting Rage Blade, Nashor's, and then your other multiplier item of Death Cap is massive. Because IE, Death Cap, and Rage Blade are like the three multiplier items of other things that you have, right? And so having both Rage Blade and Death Cap in your build as soon as possible means Rage Blade is feeding into the Death Cap ratio. They feed into each other because they increase the AP, and then that all ends up funneling into the Nashor's Tooth on hit and your passive. So
Multiply.
Exactly, until the AP is at this point where you're actually basically hitting an on-hit with one on-hit bonus item from the Nashor's, immensely hard off of AP.
Well, he's still got a ways to go before all those items come online, but he's 1.5 out of 3. He's getting there. 17 minutes into the game, still 2-0 for 100 Thieves. Oh. The Chains of Corruption find their way on to Ryu. Wants to try to save the ultimate if he can. Pops the flash instead. Big decides to devour up that enemy support. Meteos in some trouble, having a flash away. Goes golden to stay alive. Ryu decides to go for the demonic ascension. Are they going to turn this one around? Big trying to get out, using the Ignite. Thick Skin also there. Meteos coming back in with that ulti, but it's not enough. The Void Seeker doesn't hit the mark, and both sides walk away.
If Kaisa had actually been there a little earlier and was able to get in, because he's level 12, he has the rank 2 Killer Instinct, so his range is longer. He can actually just R in. They may have been able to push that down and possibly get a turret, but they might lose their mid lane turret now, as Gate and Power of Evil are actually dealing a lot of damage to it. It's not going to drop, but it gets very close.
So close, but no cigar so far for OpTic. Still no turret taken by either side, so it's that much juicier of a prize, Irene. That bonus gold loaded behind first turret means you've got all the more reason to try to push that one down. Aframu and Cody Sun will make sure that the minion wave doesn't get anywhere near it. Checking back in on the top side. The farm still just staying neck and neck. And I already like what I'm seeing here. 100 Thieves will not make the same error versus OpTic that OpTic made against Mundo before. They've already got Grievous Wounds.
Yeah, and let's check this one more time down bottom. Arrow throws out the ultimate. Big is a little bit far. Good sidestep on this from Arrow. And I like this as well. Meteos actually gets in front of Big to make sure that he can't continue to throw out Qs. And then Meteos goes to the other side. You think the Q is going to come out to stun him afterwards? Ryu goes to the other side, gets in front of Meteos again right before the Q comes back up. Because if it had been another stun, maybe that would have been enough there to finish him. Whoa, and then they get out. Yeah, they have to get out at that point.
Big and Arrow, back to farm, and up they go. They've got the Blade of the Ruin King on the side of the Varus, going up against that Rod of Ages with 6 stacks for Ryu Swain. And 100 Thieves is a team that, honestly, so far this split, Zyrene, hasn't had the kind of start that fans were hoping for from them. Their games haven't quite been on par for the team that just set incredible impressions in Spring Split, for it being their freshman split in the North American LCS, coming in, getting second, going all the way to the finals in spring. And this is a team, it's a squad of players that have been around for a while. They obviously want to find that stride, hit that success, and start racking up those points.
But I remember 100 Thieves having a really rough start last split, where it took them a while to get online, and I believe it was like a mirrored start where they went like, I don't even remember the record off the top of my head, but they had a bad record in the first half. Then the second half, they were just dominating, right? And 100 Thieves, we're saying they had a bad start to it, but if they win this game, we're literally sending 3 teams all tied for first place to Rift Rivals at 4-2. There are 4 teams, if 100 Thieves win this, tied for first place at 4-2. 3 of them are Rift Rivals teams. So I would feel like the league as a whole is trying and experimenting a lot of things and seeing what fits for them. But also you have to learn how to play against other teams that are playing something that might fit their style a little better too.
And that's what we were talking about when we mentioned the funnel compositions earlier, is how you play against them by attacking the side lanes, getting ahead through that method instead of approaching the problem just head first and banging your skull into it until you end up having to fight a 6-item enemy carry. If you attack the weak points, it can generally work out better. And that learning process is obviously still ongoing for everybody across all these different leagues. There's so many different ways to play League of Legends right now that can all find chances to win.
Yeah.
As Gate eats a Void Seeker there, 100 Thieves, they know that the Drake is infernal. They know that they've got a lot of champions that can benefit from those bonuses, especially Kaisa, since she's one of those hybrid style champions that gets both AD and AP payoff. They'll take that one down.
Yeah, and I'm looking at her right now, and we just saw the lethal tempo actually go off with an unstacked Rage Blade with lethal tempo. She's at 2.4 attack speed with just these 2 items. So she'll actually hit 2.5 with lethal tempo, her levels, and these 2 items, and especially if you stack the Rage Blade. So she's going to go past the attack speed cap and make a lot of use of it. The issue that I had with it from a stat standpoint was Fleet Footwork is super good, especially when you don't have a lot of protection like Lulu, etc. Fleet Footwork has an AP ratio on it that's been buffed, and you're building primarily AP on the Kaisa late game.
Speaking of what you're building, the Storm Razor for Gangplank. We're calling back to what you said earlier. That is the 2nd item fully completed for Someday. And as he's setting these barrels off for guaranteed 715 damage crits, the minion wave just evaporates.
Yeah, and he also has the Executioner's Calling, and so I really like that from him, buying that very early on. That's what the Longsword went into instead of the Scarix we talked about. And then the Storm Razor sets off the barrels as a crit everywhere, and playing GP a few times, one of the most frustrating parts was 30% chance to crit my barrel, and then sometimes you crit it, sometimes
This barrel might be really good.
Yeah, it might mess up your minion wave sometimes too. But now having the consistency of the Storm Razor so that it's always critting it during the laning phase makes it feel really good as a second purchase.
Plus, you've only got a 1.44 second delay on it, so if you're not actually just running in and constantly attacking people, you're going to have the Storm Razor proc almost always available.
Yeah, you're going to have it on every single parlay that's 3.5 seconds if all you do is walk up parlay and then just keep doing that. So you'll have it every single time.
Pirate with a samurai sword turns out to be a pretty good combination, Zyrene.
Hey, man, there were pirates in the seas over there.
Crossover episode, don't worry about it. As Alorum continues pushing up in the bottom lane, level 14 on the Mundo. Sunfire Cape plus Spirit Visage means he's got resistance against everything that 100 Thieves could throw against him, but this is still a very damage-heavy lineup with the Swain, the Kaisa, and the Gangplank. Sometimes in these funnels, you just see it as, okay, you kill the one guy, kill the guy getting all the resources, and then the threat is essentially gone, but not for the side of 100 Thieves. Aframu going in, looking to start this one off. Someday calls down the Cannon Barrage as Ryu goes in, Demonic Ascension, ready to go. Arrow channels the arrow, tries to fire it back. Ryu's going to be taken lower than anyone else in this fight so far. 100 Thieves can't find anyone.
Yeah, and seems like PoE, he's like, I gotta get out, gotta get the hell out of Dodge. Blew the ultimate, backed up even further. Arrow blew his flash because Ryu did, and now that's gonna be mid-turret going over to 100 Thieves. We're finding ourselves in a pretty even game here.
Another Void Seeker comes out and just disappears right before it would have hit Arrow, but 100 Thieves finally get themselves on the board in terms of turret count, taking that one down in the mid lane and keeping that gold practically dead even 24 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Stopwatches and Zhonya's hourglasses online all over the place. Fully completed hourglass for both Ryu and Meteos. Huge items for those two champions that want to activate the ult, throw themselves right into the middle of things, and then still have that time that they can buy to make sure that they get value out of those big abilities.
We're seeing pretty much dead even here. It was at 345 CS for both the mid laners, but it is Power of Evil being about 600 gold up. A lot of that's from the first turret versus the assist, or the turrets that came through for OpTic as well. And he's already got his 3-item spike. One of the things is you funnel because you want to get this guy to these gigantic power spikes. You don't funnel early game champions normally. You funnel mid-late game champions, Trinity Force users, marksmen, etc. People who scale incredibly well. Because you get them to 3 items by 24, 25 minutes, and then they can just pop off.
And it's not just the champion, it's the player as well. Power of Evil is the guy. Chain of Corruption comes out and misses there from Arrow, but Power of Evil is the guy who so often when we've seen OpTic have games that end up being tough losses, he's the reason why it was a tough loss as opposed to just a loss. This guy has done a lot of heavy lifting for this team. He's proved himself as an incredibly talented player, and now he and the rest of OpTic are deciding it's time to start up the Baron. Someday does have TP available to come towards this, and OpTic just don't have enough damage to rush it down.
It's not actually a good bait for them either, because Someday's going to get some time on this turret, time on the wave, and then as they answer Someday, they're going to lose Baron control, lose mid-wave control, and now it's going to be kind of free reign for 100 Thieves. So OpTic basically just tried to dance with the Baron. They lost a turret for it, and they also lost the position on the Baron in the future.
100 Thieves up 2,500 gold thanks to those gains. Also have control over the entire Baron pit now. You can see their wards placed down along the backside of the pit. Meteos sweeping any vision away. There's none there right now, but of course he doesn't know that as he places some wards of his own down in the pit. And now it's going to be a 100 Thieves engaging yet again. Cody's son trying to get in there, make that damage happen. They've managed to get big in a really bad spot, seeing if they can maybe take him down. They've already got him at Power of Evil too. That is 2 big picks coming out for the side of the Thieves. Alorum still hanging out here. He knows that the Baron attempt is coming.
And PoE doesn't have QSS yet. He just has a null match mantle, and that was Meteos being able to get to him, blowing the flash, and finally connecting with the fear, and they're able to blow him up, and that's going to be Baron for 100 Thieves off that play.
Easy secure there. Cody's son has learned the way of smite on the mid lane champion. We saw that not go so well the other day. Now he's got it down.
There's the setup. You see right on top, that's a Someday ultimate on top of Arrow. Arrow has to get out, and then Meteos flashes in. Someday is now just popping him up, and Xayah drops PoE. Can't do really anything there. And it's the low mobility of the composition coming into play. Right now, Ryu, though, caught out by Alorum and Arrow. This may actually be a counter kill. Here comes TP.
TP trying to save him in time. Chain of Corruption again, not on the mark. Arrow missing these ultimates. is not what OpTic needs right now. What a crit!
Someday, fun day.
Tries to go for it. Big does a good job denying the barrel, but the rest of the Thieves are here, and he's already got him out of there. Click, click, boom! Double kill for Someday, continuing that push even further. OpTic stands 3 versus 5 yet again, but they're up against the full might of the 100 Thieves squad. The minion wave is there. They're pushing towards the inhibitor.
If every Q is a crit, it's not a percent chance. It's not RNG. Someday comes up with the 3 items, the Trinity Force, the Storm Razor, and the IE behind it. It packs a hell of a punch, and it only takes 2 shots for him to blow up Arrow.
So much damage coming through, and it's funny because Infinity Edge actually isn't doubling anything with that passive, but it's still converting the critical strike damage into true damage on those Storm Razor procs. So the value's coming at least out of one of the 2 passives right now, and we'll see if he ends up buying any more crit to supplement that one, but they've already got the ultimate out of Power of Evil. Meteo's hanging out over the wall, seeing if he can go in on this one. Here it comes, Crowstorm's in! As the Gangplank ultimate is also called down. Ryu throws out the Never Move. Not going to find a lot from that one just yet. Someday's barrel gets shot down before it can explode. Void Seeker back, finds its way into Arrow. 100 Thieves will take the turret, but they don't want to stick around too long, and they leave the inhibitor for another day. Someday collects a bunch of chicken money, and they're out.
I'm pretty sure Meteos is also loving this meta right now because he's adapted and he's played the Tahm Kench, which he's always wanted to play in the jungle, quote unquote, when they're running a funnel Cody comp. And now he's playing Fiddlesticks again. Way back in the day. It's like Fiddlesticks hasn't been a jungler in a long time.
Well, he has. You just get reported for picking him.
I mean, he's struggled for like a while because like the new jungle has always not been favorable to Dark Wind unless you like pull camp together and stuff. So yeah, it definitely puts you pretty far behind. And the Fiddlesticks support though does work out. But right here, Someday barrels for the movement speed. Barrel! Boom! It's a big old crit there on Arrow. And he's like, oh, nope, doesn't get that one. Waits for the spit out. Bop. 484 damage off that one. The previous one is what got him there. The Storm Razor is just so good on him.
That is a parlayed barrel plus a normal parlay to take Arrow from 100 to 0. 2 different instances of damage completely deleted him off the face of the rift, and now 100 Thieves is pushing onto the second exposed inhibitor.
And now Someday has more critical strike chance, 60% now. The IE will feed into the Phantom Dancer. He's the one who also brought the Grievous Wounds to the table, so we saw him have a really good game on Aatrox. We saw Someday taking over in their previous match, saving the game. And here he's just coming in. He is just taking care of business.
And this isn't a high kill, super bloody, holy cow kind of game. This game only has 6 kills to count, and all of them are for 100 Thieves. They aren't needing to kill OpTic over and over again to build these advantages. It's every time they find an advantage, Zyrene, it's just been worth so much.
Exactly, and I like the pick of the GP for Someday because it means in the funnel compositions that 100 Thieves actually understand this. They're letting Cody, this guy who's carried them with 36% of the team's damage last split, they've kind of relied on him a whole bunch, and now they're able to run these strategies again where Cody has multiple supports around him. He can carry in the late game, and Someday is stepping up, playing defensive early, and then getting whatever advantage he can to scale into the later parts of the game and support his team. And that GP is just doing work here. This is 2 games in a row where Someday is actually being the main star in the funnel competition.
A lot of damage coming through onto Meteos, taking him pretty low. Gate tries to go in with the quickness, but can't find anyone. Rakan ultimate down is the main engage tool on the side of OpTic Gaming that's no longer ready to go, and that means 100 Thieves get to push in and do as they please. They take down inhibitor number 3. Woo! They move the Nexus turrets. They bring down the cannons onto Arrow. Someday goes on a rampage, and this is likely the end of the game. The turret falls first and foremost. OpTic have to make some kind of a last-ditch effort. Alorum in the back line looking to find Meteos, but OpTic have already lost their support. Big's gonna go down next. Alorum survives, but only for a moment. He pops the stopwatch at the very, very end, but it will not do anything. And 100 Thieves find their win.
And that was a 7-0 in kills. They were able to play around the funnel strat. They drafted incredibly well for it. And I feel like this played right into their strengths. We're talking about coming into Rift Rivals teams that have defined strengths in Europe where they like to run a funnel comp. They like to run mage bottom lanes in different teams. Here, 100 Thieves are looking more and more like funneling Cody and having Someday on a late game insurance champion is the way to go.
The intro to this game, you talked about how the stats that Someday put up yesterday, if you said they were running a funnel comp and then said it's not Someday, that would surprise most people. I'm looking at the damage numbers right now for this game, Irene. Let's go ahead and just run a couple of these by everybody real quick. Cody Sun did 13,000 damage this game. Power of Evil did just shy of 16,000. Someday did over 21,000 damage on the Gangplank. Now, granted, he's got a big meatball that he's constantly putting bullets into with the Mundo, but without the funnel, without the extra attention, this guy is still shining time and time and time again without that jungler to sit there and try to shut him down.
Yeah, and the GP pick, I loved when it came through because the GP ultimate is something that Varus, Xayah don't really like dealing with, and OpTic picked the Varus afterwards. And we saw even there, it was just GP pulling up the Glock, hitting him, and then the ultimate came down. He basically, at the end of the game, Arrow had 1,600 total HP. He hit him for over 780, and then he threw down the ultimate. He's doing about half his HP with a single Q. So as soon as he's in range, it's really just kind of game over there for the Varus.
Awesome performance from 100 Thieves, but now we're going to send things down to Avali and the recipient of the funnel for 100 Thieves.
Thanks, guys. Cody, congratulations on that game. Now, this is the second time this weekend that we've seen you as the focus of the funnel comp. How do you deal with the pressure of being tasked to carry the team?
Yeah, in the funnel strategy, so you just funnel like mid-wave and jungle to one person, and then that one person is kind of like a super champion, and then he tries to carry and do the most damage, which is what I'm used to. But for the funnel, there's even more pressure on like staying alive and making sure that you don't make any mistakes compared to like just a normal hyper carry. So yeah, I have to be really careful of my positioning and like where I'm going, because wherever I am or wherever I'm not, then the enemy can just make a play right away.
And next week, we're going to be seeing 100 Thieves fight in Rift Rivals with the substitutions of Levi and Brandini. Having played with them, what can you tell us about those two players, and how confident are you guys going into Rift Rivals?
Yeah, so like I scrimmed with our academy team for a day, and it was pretty fun. I think everyone in academy works really hard and has a lot of drive to try to like be the best and make it into LCS. So yeah, with Levi and Brandini, we're just gonna see how the team like fits with those two players, and then going into Rift Rivals, I think we're probably gonna do all right.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in taking down EU. Thank you, Cody. And to wrap up the day, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. 100 Thieves, one of our three teams headed to Rift Rivals, moves to 4-2 with that victory. We had funnel versus funnel in this game. One of the first times we've gotten to see that in this region. Pretty uninteractive for the early minutes of this game until you finally get to those power spikes for both teams. The fighting begins, and ultimately 100 Thieves walks away with it.
Yeah, at least usually you get some top lane skirmishing, but you throw in the GP versus Mundo as well. Both of them are like, yeah, you know, we can farm for a little bit and then take some team fights later on, and you're left with basically only the bot lane left to do anything close to skirmishing.
Yeah, and it's funny because 100 Thieves bottom lane, I think, played better down bot, but also having the GP versus the Mundo, which one would you rather have in the super late game? When you actually do have a % health dealing marksman, I take the GP, the damage dealer, because the Mundo is actually going to be able to get shredded by the end of the game. And I like the fact that 100 Thieves picked that late in the draft, knowing the situation.
Yeah, that following Sunday's performance on Jax yesterday, no surprise he continues to perform here on the day today. But you pointed to the bot lane as where we saw the action early on in the game. Funnily enough, Meteos of all people charged with dueling with Ryu in the bot lane for 100 Thieves, but 2 days in a row now they've come up with kills in the 2v2.
I swear, man, Meteos is one of the best supports in North America, and he's not even a support player. Like, this play in particular is really intelligent. He ults the wave to try and clear it out before, you know, Sunday's ultimate came and he started channeling it. And then once he realized people are cut off away from the wave, flash the wall and get this fear off so the rest of his team can come in and collapse. Now, it was a little botched on the side of OpTic. They didn't go over the blast cone very well, and they did it on top of a ward, so they had time to think about what they wanted to do, but the execution was still great by Meteos.
Yeah, overall very solid for him. It's an interesting landscape of the professional League of Legends scene right now that so many junglers are finding themselves having to learn an entirely new role in that support position, either alongside their ADC, for example, in the jungle, and/or entirely in the lane with, say, somebody else.
Well, to be fair, 4 people are off-rolled here on the side of 100 Thieves.
That's right. Okay, it's not just junglers.
Ryu's in the bot lane, Cody's a jungler.
At least Ryu's playing Swain, though.
That's true. A little bit less to learn than a Fiddlestick support for Meteos, but that was really impressive. And then, of course, as much as we've been talking about everyone else, the big linchpin for this game was Someday on GP.
You know, with all that said, it was again mentioned that 100 Thieves is heading to Rift Rivals, but of course they have elected to bring in both Brandini and Levi into the mix. And so while earlier today we were talking about distinct styles for EU teams, 100 Thieves the past couple days have really shown us a mastery of the funnel compositions here, at least within the North American ecosystem. But does all of that go out the window once you bring 2 new players into the mix?
I think it is a bit of a refresher if they want it, because, I mean, you look up and you see 100 Thieves at 4-2, and you think they've figured it out. This week was pretty good against what I think they just completely out-funneled OpTic, right? I think across the board they had a better champion select. It's really hard to say. I'm more looking forward to the experimentation that the 3 teams get at Rift Rivals and the time that all the other teams get to practice in the next 2 weeks, because they won't have to build up towards, okay, we must be able to play this on stage in the next 4 days. Take 2 weeks, actually figure out what you want to do, and then come back more practiced.
C9 going to be pretty happy with that. The first thing that jumped to mind was like, with that extended
Having that
break.
extra time of an extended break to really get things into gear. How good do you think Levi is at a Fiddlesticks?
Not? I don't know. He's great in solo queue. I cast Academy.
Wasn't a serious question.
I will eat my
But thank you
non-existent
for trying to answer it for me, Mark. I appreciate that.
I thought about it.
I want to pull up the predictions from the top of the day. Of course, Vedius joined us to throw in his predictions, and he entirely aligned with Jat.
I should have reversed all of them. That was
You should have.
Yeah.
You threw it out there as an opportunity. It would have been, I guess, 3-2 instead of 2-3. Mark, though, big day with the 4-1, moving even further ahead in the predictions game than you were coming into the day.
I mean, the Cloud9 was just a bad decision by Jat.
I think that was fine.
And the fly quest, I don't think it was, but the fly quest was a little bit of a, see how this one goes.
Right. I mean, yeah, that was, in a sense, a shot in the dark, but we say that, and both those teams are now 3-3, and all of a sudden, FlyQuest is entirely in the mix when they entered the week in such a terrible position.
And they were a team that, at the very beginning, we were like, this should be a good meta for them, and then it didn't look like it, and then it somehow did. It feels like Flame has picked it up a lot as someone who's been stepping up, as well as some of the substitutions, because they've constantly kind of been rotating out support for the better part of a split and a half now, and it hopefully is going to settle with JJ, because things look pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, a third of the way through the split we are. That's going to do it from us here on the desk, so let's toss it over to Free for NALCS Tonight. Take it away.